Tonight, you're about to witness a story that will leave you completely speechless. Every twist, every shadow, and every secret in Greenwood Village builds up to a shocking revelation you won't see coming. Stay with us until the very end, because what happens next will grip you so hard, you won't be able to look away. Don't blink. Your mind will be blown. Morning in Greenwood Village had a slow, sleepy rhythm. The sun was just creeping above the rooftops, spilling golden light across the cracked sidewalks and dusty streets. Most people were heading to work or the small market, carrying baskets or pushing carts, their conversations low and sleepy. But one sound cut through the calm, a dog barking. Zora Williams tightened her grip on her work bag as she approached the source. The barking was different today. Sharp, urgent, desperate. It wasn't the ordinary someone is passing by bark that dogs made. This one had teeth, not literally, but in its tone. It was warning, demanding attention, screaming in a language only the truly observant could understand. The dog stood stiff in front of the abandoned house at the edge of Maple Street. Everyone in Greenwood Village knew the place. Boarded windows, broken doors, walls brown and cracked, zinc sheets missing from the roof. Children were told to stay away, warned that the house was dangerous, haunted, cursed. Adults laughed it off, old stories to scare kids, but Zora felt her chest tighten every time she walked past. And today, that feeling was worse. She slowed her pace, letting the dog's growls guide her. Its ears twitched like antennae, eyes locked on the house with a terrifying focus. Zora's skin prickled under the morning sun. The air smelled of dry dust, old leaves, and something faintly sour that came from the house itself. She could see other villagers passing by, Mrs. Carter carrying a bucket to the well, Deshawn pushing his wheelbarrow full of produce, a young boy dragging a stubborn goat, but none of them paused. None of them listened. "Why are you barking like that?" Zora whispered, unsure if she was speaking to the dog or herself. For 3 days now she had heard it, always the same spot, same morning, same madness. Today, however, the bark carried something new, a plea. A voice beneath the bark. Her heart skipped when she finally heard it. It was faint at first, almost swallowed by the barking. "Help me!" Zora froze. She glanced around. Nobody else had stopped. It was as if they had all become blind to the suffering hiding in plain sight. But the sound was real. It trembled in the air, thin and broken. Someone was trapped inside that house. Her feet moved before her brain could catch up. Step by cautious step, Zora approached the porch, sandals crunching over dry sand and debris. She remembered the stories about the old house. Decades ago, an elderly woman had lived there, alone. Rumors said lights flickered inside at night, chains rattled, shadows moved on their own. She had always dismissed them as village gossip, meant to scare children. But now, the fear in those tales seemed tame compared to the reality before her. The dog barked again, louder this time, as if calling her forward. Zora held her breath, leaning slightly toward the window. The wood was rotted, the glass long gone, leaving only jagged edges around the frame. And then she heard it again, the softest, most fragile sound. "Help! Please!" It was unmistakably human. A woman. Her voice weak, trembling, barely more than a whisper, yet full of terror. Zora's chest tightened. She wanted to run, to grab her bag and go, to pretend it wasn't happening. But she couldn't. Not this time. She shouted, her voice cracking. "Somebody is inside. Please, help her." People started to notice. Finally. A man slowed his wheelbarrow, Mrs. Carter paused mid-step, and a few teens stopped and looked toward the house, their faces pale with curiosity and fear. The dog barked one last, sharp bark, then remained alert, guarding the entrance like a sentinel. The whispers and murmurs of the villagers mingled with the dog's growls and Zora's panicked breath. Fear was contagious, but so was action. Some villagers began to move closer, hesitant yet compelled. Zora felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She had heard the warning. She had listened. Now she couldn't turn away. Leaning closer, she pressed her ear to the open window. The broken wood scraped against her skin, cold and rough. Another whisper came. "Help me. I'm here. Please." Tears sprang to Zora's eyes. Her fingers trembled as she covered her mouth to keep herself from screaming. This was no imagination, no village ghost story. Someone was alive, terrified, and counting on someone, anyone, to hear them. Her work bag slipped from her shoulder to the ground, forgotten. Time slowed. She shouted again, louder. "Somebody help! There's a woman trapped inside." The villagers, stirred into action by her urgency, started moving. A few shouted back to each other. Zora's legs quaked, but she stepped forward, guided by the dog's insistent barks. Each step toward the house was heavy with dread, yet driven by a single thought. "I cannot ignore this. Not today." And as she reached the edge of the porch, the air thick with dust and tension, Zora realized she was no longer just a passerby. She had become the listener, the first to act. The warning had been heard, and now it demanded a response. Zora didn't hesitate. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest as she stepped onto the rotting porch boards, each creak echoing into the empty street. The dog stayed at her side, ears pricked and eyes glowing with a strange intelligence, as if it knew the danger ahead. She could feel the weight of every villager's stare, but their presence felt distant, almost irrelevant. Right now, there was only the woman trapped inside, and the urgency of getting her out. "Stay here," Zora said softly to the dog, though she wasn't sure if it would obey. Its bark answered her, sharp and commanding, almost like a confirmation that she wasn't alone in this. Inside the house, darkness swallowed her. The morning light barely reached past the broken windows, and the smell hit her first, damp, moldy, and tinged with something metallic. Blood? Fear tightened her stomach. She fumbled in her bag for her phone, using its flashlight to pierce the gloom. Dust swirled in the narrow beam, and cobwebs clung to the corners like frozen ghosts. "Hello." Zora's voice trembled, but she forced it to carry. "I'm here to help. Please, I'm coming for you." The whisper came again, fainter this time, almost drowned by the house's groans and creaks. "Hurry, please." Following the sound, Zora moved cautiously through the narrow hallway. Broken furniture littered the floor, an overturned chair, splintered tables, and faded photographs scattered across the dusty planks. One photograph caught her eye, a smiling woman holding a young girl, both radiating joy from decades ago. A sudden ache gripped Zora's chest. Whoever was trapped here had a life once, filled with normal laughter and love. "Miss, can you hear me?" Zora called, her voice firmer now. The whisper replied louder, "Here, please hurry." Turning a corner, she finally saw her. The woman was huddled in a far corner, pressed against the wall as if it were her only shield. Her clothes were torn, her face pale, streaked with dirt and tears. Her eyes widened with hope and fear as she saw Zora approaching. I didn't think anyone would come," the woman stammered, her voice shaking. "You're safe now," Zora said, kneeling beside her. "I've got you. We're getting out of here." But the rescue wasn't simple. The house groaned like it might collapse at any moment. Boards cracked beneath their weight, dust fell from the ceiling, and the faint sound of rattling chains echoed in the distance. Zora knew they had to move fast. "Can you stand?" Zora asked, offering her hand. The woman hesitated, shivering, but gripped it firmly. Together, they began to make their way toward the exit. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed behind them. Zora whipped around. One of the weakened ceiling beams had fallen, blocking their path back. Panic surged, but she forced herself to breathe. Forward, she realized. Forward was the only way. "Follow me," Zora shouted. The woman nodded, trusting her completely, even in the face of terror. Step by step, they navigated the treacherous floorboards, dodging holes and debris. The dog barked again, rushing ahead as if guiding them. Its movements were almost protective, ensuring the path remained clear. Outside, sunlight spilled into the broken doorway. Relief washed over Zora as she helped the woman step into the open air. Villagers rushed forward, some covering their mouths in horror, others shaking their heads in disbelief. Mrs. Carter held a blanket, wrapping it around the woman trembling in Zora's arms. "You're safe now," Zora whispered again, her own hands shaking. "Everything's going to be okay." The dog sat by the doorway, panting but alert, eyes never leaving the house. Zora crouched down and ran a hand over its head. "Thank you," she murmured, though she didn't know if it understood. But she felt the gratitude in that simple, unwavering gaze. The woman's name, she learned moments later from a teary-eyed neighbor, was Clarissa Johnson. She had been living alone, and no one in Greenwood Village had checked on her for weeks. A cruel twist of neglect, combined with the decay of the old house, had trapped her, leaving her dependent on luck and a barking dog for rescue. Zora felt a mix of triumph and anger. How could a community ignore one of its own for so long? But there was no time for reflection yet. Clarissa needed care, warmth, and reassurance. And Zora knew that this was just the beginning. The real work, the consequences of what had happened, was yet to unfold. As Clarissa was escorted to safety by the villagers, Zora looked back at the house. Shadows clung to the corners, silent and ominous, as if the building itself was alive and watching. She shivered, realizing that Greenwood Village's peaceful mornings had always been a fragile illusion. Danger could hide anywhere, even in the quietest, most familiar streets. And she knew, with an uneasy certainty, that whatever had caused Clarissa to be trapped would not stay hidden for long. The sun was barely above the horizon when Zora returned to Greenwood Village, her mind restless and heavy. Even after rescuing Clarissa, something gnawed at her. The way the house seemed to breathe, the way shadows shifted unnaturally in the corners. She couldn't shake the feeling that danger was still lurking, invisible yet palpable. Clarissa had been taken in by Mrs. Carter for warmth and food, but Zora knew she needed answers. Why had no one noticed her disappearance sooner? And more importantly, what had trapped her in that decaying house? Zora walked through the village, her eyes scanning every street, every abandoned lot. Greenwood seemed quiet, almost eerily so, as if holding its breath. A few children played near the fountain, their laughter distant and hollow, while adults avoided her gaze, offering polite nods that didn't reach their eyes. Something was wrong. "Zora," called Malik Thompson, a local shopkeeper and one of the few people she trusted in Greenwood. His deep voice carried urgency. "You need to come inside. There's been strange things happening." Inside his shop, Malik gestured toward a wall covered with hastily pinned notes, photos, and maps of the village. Small arrows connected various points. Broken fences, abandoned homes, strange footprints in the mud. "You're not imagining it," Malik said, voice tight. "Something's been moving through Greenwood at night. People disappearing, dogs barking like crazy. And now this, Clarissa's house." Zora studied the board, absorbing every detail. Her instincts screamed that this was bigger than neglect or chance. "Have there been reports of anyone else being trapped?" she asked, tracing a line connecting 3 incidents over the past month. Malik shook his head. "Mostly rumors. But I've noticed a pattern. Every time someone vanishes, there's a dog nearby, barking, warning. But the adults, they dismiss it. And by the time someone investigates, it's almost too late." Zora's stomach tightened. The dog from yesterday, the one that had guided her, hadn't been ordinary. Its intelligence, its sense of timing, it had seemed almost human in understanding. "Do you think it's connected?" she asked. Malik looked uneasy. "I don't know. But you need to be careful. Whoever or whatever is behind this doesn't want to be seen. And if it feels threatened..." His words trailed off, leaving a chilling silence. That night, Zora couldn't sleep. She replayed every moment of the rescue. The creaking boards, the shadowy corners, the whispering voice. She thought of Clarissa, trembling in the safety of Mrs. Carter's home, unaware that the threat might still be out there, watching, waiting. Suddenly, a faint scratching sound came from her window. Zora froze, listening. The wind rustled the trees outside, but there was something more, something deliberate. She grabbed her flashlight, creeping to the window. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on nothing but the empty street. Then she saw it, a shadow darting across the alleyway, too fast for a human. Her heart leapt, but before she could react, it vanished. The hairs on her arms stood on end. This wasn't just a house or an accident. This was something else. Something intelligent. The next morning, Zora returned to Clarissa, determined to learn more. Clarissa's hands trembled as she recounted the days she had been trapped. It watched me, she whispered, eyes wide. Sometimes I thought I saw eyes in the dark. And the whispers. Always whispers. Zora's mind raced. The clues were aligning. The house, the disappearances, the dogs barking. Something unseen was orchestrating fear in Greenwood Village. And whatever it wasn't done. She knew she had to prepare. This threat, invisible and silent, could strike again at any moment. She wouldn't wait for someone else to fall victim. Zora would face it, even if it meant confronting a darkness no one else dared to see. And somewhere in the shadows, watching, the threat lingered, unseen, patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. Zora knew waiting would only make things worse. Greenwood Village was no longer a safe place, and the invisible threat had already claimed too many. She couldn't rely on luck or hope anymore. She had to act. That night, she called Malik Thompson and Jamal Hayes, a local high school teacher known for his bravery and sharp instincts. Together, the three of them formed a small patrol, determined to uncover the mystery before anyone else disappeared. Equipped with flashlights, walkie-talkies, and Zora's notebook filled with observations, they set out just as the village fell under the cloak of darkness. Every creak of the old wooden sidewalks, every rustle in the trees, made them pause. The silence of Greenwood was deafening, broken only by distant barking dogs warning them, or warning someone else. "Stay sharp," Malik whispered, eyes scanning the shadows. "We don't know what we're dealing with, but it's clever. And it's watching." They split into pairs, Zora with Jamal, Malik taking the other street, their walkie-talkies crackling faintly with static. Zora's heart pounded, adrenaline sharpening her senses. Every alleyway seemed alive, every shadow threatening. As they approached the abandoned Miller house, the site of the first disappearances, the air grew colder. A thick fog rolled in, obscuring their vision. Then the sound came, faint scratching, like nails on wood, followed by a low, guttural growl. "Did you hear that?" Jamal whispered, gripping his flashlight like a weapon. Zora nodded, shining her light toward the source. Nothing. Just empty darkness. But the feeling of being watched intensified. She remembered Clarissa's words. "Sometimes I thought I saw eyes in the dark." And the whispers. Always whispers. Suddenly, a dog barked, not aggressively, but sharply, almost like a signal. Zora froze. She realized the pattern. The barking wasn't random. It was a warning, guiding them. The dog ran ahead, pausing at the edge of a crumbling fence, then disappearing into the shadows. "Follow it," Zora said. Jamal hesitated, but her conviction was contagious. Together, they crept toward the area where the dog had gone. The fog swirled around them, making every step feel surreal. Then, they saw movement. Faint, quick, almost imperceptible. Zora's breath caught. Something, or someone, was watching them from the second-floor window of the abandoned house. The figure was gone the instant they focused their flashlights on it, leaving only the faintest echo of a whisper in the wind. "It's here," Zora whispered, heart pounding. "It's been watching all along." Jamal's hand trembled as he gripped Zora's arm. "What do we do?" "We wait," she said, voice steady but tense. "We observe. We learn. Then we strike." For hours, they patrolled the streets, following every lead, every barking dog, every subtle sign of the unseen presence. Greenwood Village had become a maze of shadows, each corner holding secrets and danger. Yet, despite the fear, Zora felt a strange clarity. She could see patterns others couldn't. The movements, the timings, the signals left by the dogs. By dawn, they returned to their starting point, exhausted but alive. Malik met them with a worried look. "Did you see anything?" Zora shook her head. "Not everything, but enough. It's clever, but it's not invincible. We know where it moves, we know how it operates. Tomorrow we prepare." As the first rays of sunlight broke through the fog, Zora knew one thing for certain. Greenwood Village was no longer just a home. It was a battlefield. And the night held secrets they had only just begun to uncover. Somewhere in the shadows of the abandoned houses and darkened streets, the unseen threat lingered, waiting, learning, and preparing for the next move. The night air was thick with tension as Zora, Malik, and Jamal gathered their gear. After nights of observing, tracking, and deciphering patterns, they finally had a plan. Greenwood Village had hidden its secrets for too long, and it was time to uncover the truth behind the disappearances. "This is it," Malik said, checking the flashlight in his hand. "We know its patterns. We know where it strikes. Tonight, we end this." Zora nodded, her eyes sharp and unwavering. "Stay close. Don't make sudden moves. Follow the signals." She held her notebook tightly, filled with clues and sketches of the strange movements they had witnessed. The team moved silently toward the Miller house, the epicenter of the mystery. The fog had returned, curling around the old structures like a living thing. Every creak of wood, every shadow, sent chills down their spines. The barking of the neighborhood dogs echoed faintly, signaling that they were not alone. As they approached the abandoned house, a dark figure appeared at the window. It was tall, thin, and unnaturally still. Its eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, reflecting the flashlights in a way that made Zora's stomach knot. "Stay calm," she whispered. "It's testing us." Suddenly, the figure moved with lightning speed, darting down the stairs and disappearing into the fog outside. Malik lunged forward, but the figure vanished into the night. Zora realized then that the threat wasn't just a person, it was something that could move silently, almost like it knew their every thought. "Split up," Zora ordered, voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "We corner it from both sides. Don't let it escape." Malik and Jamal took positions on either side of the house while Zora circled around the back. Every step was calculated, every sound amplified by the tense silence. Then, from the shadows, the figure emerged, blocking Zora's path. It was human, but distorted somehow, its movements too fast, its presence overwhelming. Zora raised her flashlight, shining it directly on the figure. Its eyes widened, revealing a flicker of recognition. "Who are you?" she demanded. The figure tilted its head, letting out a low, almost guttural laugh. "You shouldn't have come here," it whispered, its voice carrying a chilling echo. At that moment, Malik and Jamal appeared from the sides, cornering it. The figure tried to flee, but the three friends moved as one, closing the gap. With careful coordination, Malik tackled it to the ground while Jamal restrained its arms. Zora shone the light in its face. Finally, they could see it clearly. It was a man from the outskirts of the village, disheveled and frantic, but alive. His eyes were wild, and he trembled as if haunted by something unseen. I couldn't help it," he stammered. "They made me. I had no choice." Zora frowned. Who made you do this?" The man's whisper was barely audible. "The darkness. It's real. It moves through the village, and it chooses." Suddenly, the fog seemed to pulse around them, and for a fleeting moment, Zora thought she saw shadows moving independently of the man. The truth was clear. The real threat wasn't just a person. It was something ancient, something alive, lurking in the very heart of Greenwood Village. "Stay alert," Zora said, gripping her flashlight like a weapon. "We've captured him, but the fight isn't over. This village, this darkness, it's not done with us." As dawn broke over Greenwood Village, the trio stood together, exhausted but resolute. They had faced the immediate danger, but the larger mystery remained. The village was safe for now, yet the shadows lingered, waiting for their next move. Zora looked at Malik and Jamal, determination burning in her eyes. We protect this place. No matter what comes next. Greenwood Village deserves that much. And with that, the three friends walked back through the fog, ready to defend their home, knowing that some mysteries never truly disappear. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this story. I want to hear from you. What do you think about what's happening? And tell me, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below.